Up next is a conversation with Cooke. He's a successful entrepreneur, expert marketer, avid martial artist, and practitioner of Chinese and Asiatic medicine. Craig is also an author. Check his new book, Business Kung Fu, in the description below. And if you find value in this episode, consider subscribing. My goal with this conversation is to provide as much value for the benefit of all. Here's this week's episode. Enjoy. Thank you for doing it again. So a little bit of the back end. The last time we have some technical difficulties in the end product. So, well, maybe it was something that we needed to discuss that we wasn't discussed before.
Yeah, very well. Yep, probably.
How you got into martial arts and because you creating this, you wrote your book, yeah? So, yes. And your book is it talks about martial arts, but at the same time, it's like for a lot of us, they practice martial arts and they are in business. You can see a lot of the commonalities with it and a lot of the common traits of it. Mm-hmm. But for someone that is not quite familiar, what was the things for you that comes to light when it comes to both of those disciplines?
Okay, so the reason why I got into martial arts in the first place was I wanted to study it since I was a young kid. I actually got a little bullied in first grade for a short period of time, and that wasn't cool. And I remember thinking, I don't ever want that to happen again. And that's first grade. That's probably like 7 or so.
Okay.
And then I would watch I think it was Kung Fu theater on Sundays on TV. To have like the Jackie Chan movies and all that, and then the TV show Kung Fu. I was just like really enamored and just had a natural affinity, like a drawing towards it. And at the time, I think I was around 10, I asked my mom, hey, I'd like to study, take martial arts, and she's like, no. I had a cousin of ours, I had a couple of cousins that lived with us. Yeah. And that's a long story there. But one of them had, I think he studied karate, and he went around the neighborhood beating up the neighborhood kids. And she didn't want me to do that, even though I wouldn't have done that because it wasn't me, She's like, no. I'm like, okay. But finally, but I that desire remained with me, right? So at the age of 17, I was working in my mom's restaurant. She had a small little restaurant, like 14 tables or something like that. And I started off washing dishes when I was 10, and busboy at 13, and a waiter at 16. So at 17, I was a waiter, and she had hired this chef from New York City. And I worked alongside with them. And after a few months, we were just casually talking, and somehow the topic of Kung Fu came up. He's like, I know Kung Fu. And my eyes like went, wow, really? Like they got really big. I'm like, you know Kung Fu? He's like, yeah. So why? Do you want to learn? I'm like, yeah. So I'll teach you. Really? So out of respect for my mom, I said, hey, his name was Lyndon Clegg, great, wonderful gentleman. He knows Kung Fu and he's willing to teach me. And she's like, oh, fine. She wasn't too happy about it, but she was cool about it. So after I'd go out there on Saturdays. He lived about a half hour away from me, so I'd go out there on Saturdays, and then we started working out after work. So like around 9 p.m., 9:30, he'd come over to my house, and we'd go in the garage, and he was teaching me, and I was at a pretty hardcore for a good 8 years or so under him. Yeah, and he studied at Alan Lee's Kung Fu Wusu Temple in New York City. His teacher, Harry Costell, he's a grandmaster now, and Alan Lee is great grandmaster. And I actually study with Harry to this day online, usually once a week or so. And just really great people, and it was really impactful and changed my life, actually, got me on a positive direction. And then when I started my company, the second part of your question, when I was 25, I just had this, there was such a part of me, I just had this natural ability to take those principles that I learned and just apply it to the business. My mindset, the way I approached it, even aspects of structure, philosophy, and so forth. And I just naturally applied it to the business.
Well, what was your restaurant located? What part?
It was in Glendora, California.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, right on Route 66.
Yeah.
Famous Route 66. Right before you get up to San Dimas. I lived in Glendora and San Dimas.
It's like close to the, how do you call this airport? Like Ontario Airport?
Ontario, yeah. That was probably about 20 minutes east from us. And we were about 15, 20 minutes east of Pasadena.
Okay.
Yeah, Glendora. Sometimes people get it mixed up with Glendale, but Glendora, San Dimas, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, San Dimas rules. Yeah, I lived.
That was a place where my wife went to school, where they have the 5 campus all together in one.
Oh yes, she went to. It was at Claremont Colleges, or
well, one of them.
One of them.
Yeah.
In that area.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. So that was like 10, 15 minutes east of where we were at. Yeah, I used to go up that area all the time, actually. Yeah.
So when you start your business, I assume that you started it and then you thought that you had it, and then something. What was the main thing that they make you do it more in terms of like use the framework or kung fu that you have learned, the discipline base?
Yeah, the discipline portion. Yes. So that was what really set me up for success, I believe, in the business. So it was a huge struggle. The first 5 years was just really brutal. Starting the business, thought, oh yeah, this is a great idea. We're going to make tons of money, and right. And all of a sudden it's not that easy, right? It's, things just don't line up. This doesn't happen. But the discipline that I had through Kung Fu, that I had discipline in me, but it was Kung Fu that really brought it out and really brought it to the surface. And it was just really natural for me to apply it to the business. And the way I define discipline, I have 3 levels of it. One, first, is just showing up. And by showing up, I mean showing up every day. So especially those first 5 years, I worked weekends, I worked on holidays, I didn't go on vacations, I just showed up every day. Showed up. That's showing up. That's the first level. The second level is being productive. Okay, once you show up, great, but that's only half of it. There's people that show up and they don't do anything, right? Yeah. So you got to be productive. You have to be producing something. You got to get to work and produce. And then the third level is being effective. And by being effective, you're creating value. Whatever you're producing is actually worthy of something. It has value in whoever's going to be purchasing that product or service from you. And when I was learning Kung Fu, there's all that discipline applied, but it also just when learning a technique, learning it, practicing it, but then how do you apply it, the application of it, right? And that was kind of like a parallel, showing up and learning it, being productive by practicing it, but then creating value, the application of it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's things like that where my mind just naturally was applying what I had learned to the business.
So also probably it helped you a lot, the idea of, if you practice an application and it doesn't work, just move on to the next application. Yeah, either like what you learn or how to reposition yourself, or how you reposition your company. Yeah,
right, exactly. So this isn't working. Like if I shift this way, this is a better angle. Oh, interesting. Oh, wow, this really works nice when I shift my body just this slight and come in at this slight angle. Oh, wow, that's cool. So the same thing with business is like, we're trying this thing and it's not working, we're not attracting the right customers or something, but then it's like repositioning, that maybe it's like the brand language, perhaps the marketing messaging that's going out. Well, shift, do adjustments, adjust, experiment, adjust, and then you see what sticks and what works. So yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but your company was all about marketing, yeah?
Yes, it was a digital marketing agency. It evolved from the original concept idea to what it became, but it was always about marketing.
But you were, in that time, it was when digital marketing, it was a lot of learning curves, yeah?
Oh, yeah. It was, so it's 1996 is when I started the company. And so the internet was really new.
Yep.
Right? It was, around for a good 5 years, the commercial internet, but that was when it was just starting to get popular. And at the time, there was only 30 million people worldwide connected online. And we created this website to market independent music, kind of like this anti-establishment, fight the, the man with the big record machine that just does all the programming and mind control of the masses of what to hear, what to listen to. We wanted to level the playing field for all these independent musicians that were extremely talented, but people couldn't find out about them because of the system, right? So it was a great idea. And we had created this website where people could discover independent music, listen to song samples online, buy the CDs through a secure server way back in 1996, but there was no broadband, no MP3s. People were afraid to buy stuff using their credit card online. Didn't have any money because we started out, totally bootstrapped it, which is funny because now I live on a street called Bootstrap, funny enough. And $1,300 a piece to two of my friends and myself, and I had a computer, and that's how we started it. And it was a lot of trial and error, a lot of learning, because like you said, everyone was learning at the time.
Well, I was like putting my credit card in '98. It would be like, I don't know if we just got away or the
exactly.
And like, you tell me I have to type my numbers, and I remember the first time I was in the Palm Springs Library, early 2001, 2002. And, because you used to go to the library to the internet.
Right.
And I went there, and I remember, I want to buy that. And PayPal showed up, and I did my first transaction with PayPal in 2002. It was like terrifying. Go check the bank, the statements.
Right.
Yeah.
That was everyone at the time, that whole time. That's that idea that we had. Great idea. It was just ahead of its time. And, we didn't have a lot of money to, like a lot of people got, and we didn't get any funding. We didn't know any better, right? Yeah. We just made a lot of mistakes.
And it was the same time that Napster is going around. Yeah. So
it was even before then.
People want it for free.
Right, exactly. But in 1998, we started to change gears, and because people started to come to us with their need for a website for their company, like, this internet stuff, can you do a website for a company? And like, yeah, sure, and started doing that more and more, and then really light bulb moment. Oh, we can actually make money, good money. Doing websites for companies. So we rebranded as RhythmNet Design Group. We were rhythmnet.com at first. So RhythmNet Design Group, doing web design for companies. And at that time, I saw a vision of how the future of a modern marketing agency would integrate online and offline together. So just started then work on building up capabilities around that idea. So started learning search marketing, started learning print design, actually, because we're still working with the musicians. So we started doing the package design for their CDs, and then brokering the printing and the disc replication, because they would blow all their money on the CD. So only to look at that, and then could put them on the website. But that led to CD-ROM development.
Okay.
Learning how to do programming with Director, Macromedia Director it was called. And I taught myself I taught myself all that stuff, the programming and a lot of the design. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she's really great, talented designer, graphic designer, art director, and she helped me quite a bit, to fine tune my design aesthetic when it came to visual design, and taught me a lot about Photoshop and so forth. And really just started diving deep into, in a very disciplined manner, to how to learn all this stuff and how to utilize it and apply it. And eventually the company became an integrated digital marketing agency. In 2004, we rebranded as Rhythm Interactive, and we were doing email marketing, search marketing, digital online display, CD-ROMs, do identity work, brochures, print collateral. Even got into video production, just all kinds of different suite of services. And then it just kind of grew from there slowly, because again, it was bootstrapped. And then right around 2012, we hit a great stride, growth spurt. And, one thing led to another, and eventually I sold it. So
that's great.
Yeah.
But I think that's the whole, sometimes we say roll with the punch. So it's because it's always an opening. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So one of my teachers used to say, it's like, hey, the difference between a professional boxer and an amateur boxer is the amateur boxer, it will hit you when you open. And the professional boxer, it will hit you where you open.
Right.
So it's always a possibility to redirect, and it seems like you guys found it.
Yeah, exactly. Redirecting, adapting.
Yeah.
One of the principles, my instructor Lyndon, his instructor Harry Costel, he eventually stepped away from Alan Lee's Kung Fu Wusu temple and started his own system in the early 90s, which was a blend. Yeah, his philosophy was more like an open source type, just integrate whatever works for you, embrace it, make it your own. And he has a training method that he calls SCRA, which is spontaneous, creative, rhythmic adaptation. So the adaptation, being able to adapt to any situation, any type of fighter, regardless of what they know or their background, being able to not be taken by surprise, but being able to adapt. So that was a principle that with the business, that adaptability was really huge for us, because it wasn't about doing the same thing over and over without success and just thinking that it was going to work. It was like, how do we adapt? How do we adjust to the market based on what we're seeing, what we're experiencing? And it was really pivotal for us in our success.
So how long does it took you to write this book?
12 years. Yeah, I started in 2011. I'd wanted to write a book for a very long time, since I was a teenager, actually, because that was my first passion in life, was books, actually. I always had a book in my face when I was a kid. And in 2011, I said, it's time I write that book, because I have a good amount of knowledge here that I can share. And I thought about it, and then it just, an inspirational moment came about, business Kung Fu. Yeah, of course. And I created the outline and started working on it. But, it took a while, because the business was always the priority. And, I had family too. And, I would work on it when I could. But once I was able to step away from the business after selling it and staying on for a few years and then stepping away, I was able to really spend the time that I needed to spend to get it finished and completed and out into the market. So yeah, I'm happy. But that's part of discipline too. And also just that perseverance, which is another big thing with martial arts that I applied, just the warrior spirit that allows you to persevere and to keep going, regardless of challenges.
So how was your process? Yeah. So you come across something, or you had an idea, and then you write it down, and then you paint it down, and you write on a piece of paper, and then you go years later and see if it works. So how do you start working on that book? And
Yeah.
What was the process, I guess?
Yeah, when I came up with the idea, I was like, okay, yeah, this is solid. This totally makes sense. This is right for me. I can definitely write to this and make it my own. It'll be unique. And then I created an outline, and then I just started writing the preface, and then started on chapter 1. And yeah, I would occasionally write about it. And then once in a while, as the years went by, I'd always review the outline. Like, does this make sense? Is this right? And I'd make some adjustments to the outline, over the years as I was kind of going through the chapters. So it's just kind of looking, reviewing, okay, am I missing anything? Oh, well, yeah, this is, let me include this. And I'm glad it went this way, because there's much more value that I was able to provide finishing it and releasing it now, as opposed to if I did it, say, a decade ago. Like, it's a much better book based on all the experience that I've gathered over the past decade.
So what do you think this book is for? Like, for what kind of audience? It's like beginning, middle, or like anybody can find some marrow in there?
Yeah, I believe, especially based on the feedback that I've been getting, that has universal principles that it can apply to pretty much everyone. And some of the feedback that I've been getting is that not only is it a great book for business, but also even a roadmap for life, which is wasn't my intent, but it just worked out that way. And I can see that now. I wrote it really for entrepreneurs, and I believe the sweet spot is entrepreneurs that are in their first 5 years of their entrepreneurial journey. Because that was, for me, the most difficult time. And the book, the intention behind the book is to inspire and empower entrepreneurs to build their mastery in order to overcome challenges along their business journey. That's the purpose of it, the intent. So that's the sweet spot for the audience. Say business professionals that, they work at a large corporation as opposed to being an entrepreneur, they can learn some aspects out of it or get something out of it, and I'm sure. But there's definitely some universal principles, it seems, that could apply to a lot. Actually, some recent feedback I got is that it'd be great for high school students, because of some of the information that I put out about my story and where I was at, not going down the greatest path, and how martial arts had a huge positive impact on my life.
I think we should teach martial arts in high schools.
Yes.
That would be great.
It would be great. Yes. Like a required course, at least for a semester at the very least, gosh,
But it was interesting, because it's like when you use like a business book, say how to survive in the first 5 years, because it's rough. Most people like quit.
Yes.
After the first 12 months. Mm-hmm. And having that, but also makes sense as well, that is a book that people say, oh, it can be good for life. And I'm like, yeah, 'cause your life is your business.
That's right.
Yes. If you don't have, like, you have to run it like it's a business. Mm-hmm. So you're living by default.
Yes, and life is full of challenges, right, that you have to overcome. So, yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, your life is your business.
Yeah.
Fraught with challenges along the way.
And like it's the what we were talking earlier is about the adaptation piece. Yeah, how can I adapt to whatever is showing up?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we are throwing these interesting curveballs in life. How do we adapt to these various situations that come up so that we can come out on the other side better, for in multitude of ways, right? Yeah, rather than caving and quitting or becoming a victim, right?
Yeah, the victim piece is like, well, it's their fault. And I always like, I remember people say, oh, my state doesn't support the type of business I want to run. And I'm like, great, what state does?
Right.
Well, Texas. You move to Texas. Mm-hmm. But I want to live here. And I'm like, well, do you want to live here, or you want to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always, through my experience, I discovered there's always a way. So if you have the will, there's always a way. Yeah, you're going to have these challenges that come up, but you can always overcome it. There's always a way. There's always a way somehow to get around or go over, under, however you want to describe it, a way to overcome those challenges and get to where you want to be.
Yeah, that is something that most people, they get paralyzed. Yeah, they get paralyzed. I don't believe they get paralyzed with fear. I think they get paralyzed with the possibility of success.
Yes, which could be fear of success. It could be worry. What if this happens? Like, what am I going to, more of a worry rather than a fear. Yeah, there's all these emotions that come into play that throw us off balance and, get us unfocused and distracted. And
What about if? And I'm like, well, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What about if you don't?
Right.
Like, you have the know already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't do it, you know what's going to happen if you choose not to do it.
Right. Yeah.
But what about if you do?
Right.
Well, we don't know until we find out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you're gonna sharpen any of the endeavor of that nature, make sure that you fail quick. That's all.
Yeah.
Quicker that you fail, like you, the quicker you realize this is not going to work, but we have all this infrastructure, how we can pivot. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I made so many mistakes. Not only the first 5 years, but throughout the journey. But that was one of the best ways to learn, because it was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to do that again. Right. So, those lessons, they can be hard sometimes, but they really just stick with you and you become better for it. Your sword is much sharper because of it.
I'm going to do that again. It's kind of interesting concept, because for us, for people that does martial arts or they do any spiritual practices and stuff like that, we are more in the free spirit way of things. Mm-hmm. So we like to screw it up, but we don't take, I think it's a healthy way to live, to find that curiosity in life and then go for it.
Right.
But we don't use it when it comes to business, because what about, and I understand we are responsible for, whoever many people in your company that you are for. But I think most people will be better off if they take the chance and they allow themselves screwed up.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what if things do work out? And if you make the mistake, well, just adapt, change. And as long as you have that focus and intent, the sincere intent to live your purpose and to produce value, things will work out. They just tend to work out.
I think one of because you go to YouTube and it's all this, get extra money or do this or affiliate or whatever. Yeah.
Right,
so I think most people don't talk how lonely the beginning is, and how it's like nobody understands.
No.
Nobody cares about your feelings.
Yeah, only people that have gone through it truly understand, 100%. Yeah, and that's a good word, lonely. There was times that first 5 years, I was very close to quitting. Couple times, one time in particular, and that's where I have a 5 elements of success that I write about in my book, and one of the elements is faith. And as a entrepreneur, your faith gets tested quite a bit. It's all kinds of emotions come to the surface. And for me, there was this one night I was working late by myself, very lonely. It was past midnight, and I think I was probably around 3-4 years into the business, and I remember thinking, God, what am I doing? Am I just stupid? Like, what's wrong with me? Because at the time I had a number of friends from like college that were into their careers and they were making, good money and having fun and going out and doing that. And I sacrificed a lot. Like I stopped hanging around a lot of friends and I wasn't, going out. I was, working. Even with, my wife was my girlfriend at the time. It was like, yeah, we can only get together once during the weekend, or, this day and this day, and there's just a lot I sacrificed, and it was lonely is a great description, great word for it. And this one night in particular, I was like seconds away from quitting, and I was completely freezing in my office because the office was really cold, long story. And I had my head on the desk, and there's literally, I think, probably a tear coming out of my eye or two, and I was just really distraught. And I just, for whatever reason, I understand why, it was a divine nudge. I need to check my email, and I checked my email. And I always had a strong faith in which I say you have to have a strong faith in yourself, a conviction in yourself that you can do what you set out to do, but then also in a higher power as well. And I always had that. And so I got this divine nudge to check my email, and this email came through from one of my vendors, a hosting provider. And it was like, thank you, or something like that. And that's interesting. So I started reading it, and he was talking about just saying, hey, thanks to all my customers, and I really appreciate you, et cetera, et cetera. And he goes on to talk about how he just sold the company and how he was so close to quitting multiple times, and but he kept going. And now he's reached this level of success, and all kinds of great things are happening for him. And it was a message that I needed at that time that came in right at the exact moment that I needed it. That got me through that moment where I was literally seconds away from saying, that's it, I'm done. And I went home that night, just really thinking, wow, that was amazing. And then I woke up the next day with hope for the future. And that was all divine guidance. And that's that element of faith, as long as you not only have that conviction in yourself. Some people don't have the belief system in whatever higher power, but when we do the spiritual work, so we know what's up. It's just not this, right? But having that faith in the spirit world, you have that team that loves you, guides you, and supports you, that will help you overcome and get through your darkest nights.
I was telling someone a couple months ago about, you look at people and they're like, well, they're not spiritual, and they are all for money and things of that nature. And in particular, they were talking about Gary Vee, yeah. So the Gary Vee guy, yeah. And this person I was mentioning today, well, he never mentioned spirituality or God or the divine. So it's all about, and I'm like, he's probably one of the most spiritual people that you have met. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, they using their business as a spiritual practice. It might be in a secular way, but they're still applying, if you understand the core values that they bring into their business.
Yes.
They're applying a lot of energetic and spiritual laws to make that happen. Mm-hmm. So telling that there's not a spiritual, they might be not resonated with any other denomination, or like they will call the divine God, or the guy in the sky wearing a triangle above his head. Yeah. So, but they practice what makes them wake up in the morning, what makes them like their heart sing. They're turning into their businesses. It's been turning into a spiritual practice, yeah, because it's like it's tapping into that.
Yeah, you see it on. I follow him on LinkedIn, and you see his posts, and it's all this heart-centered messaging. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's great. Actually, one of my former HR manager works for him.
Oh wow!
Actually, yeah, at the LA office, and I'm so glad he went there because he's a great guy. And my company, that's the way I led my business, was through a heart-centered approach. It was like very purposeful, because I was like, you don't need to be a jerk. you you don't need to be vindictive or lead by fear. And, this whole antiquated old school model, that's the 20th century. I was much more about a heart-centered approach, having empathy and working to develop people professionally and personally as well, as far as my team members go. And I really, for me, it was like this inner desire to prove that you can be successful with that approach. And I've reached a certain level of success utilizing that approach that I'm happy. I'm happy with that. And I think the world needs more of that. And seeing like Gary Vee, like you mentioned, all that messaging he's putting out there, I think is fantastic. And I agree. It is very, spiritual. It's not, he doesn't have to come out and say, well, hey, it's blah, 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 or I believe this, or it's exactly that. It's like, he's just doing. Yep. He's being. Yeah. That's great.
You're talking about building a successful thing. And I think that is, for companies, could be one of the greatest assets and one of the worst things that can happen to them. How was your hiring process? It was just gut feel. How did you start it?
Yeah, so the hiring process was always interesting. Kind of could be a crapshoot at times. Sometimes we have great success, and other times we would have people that just didn't work out. It was totally unexpected. Like we got totally fooled despite all the different rounds of interviews and even putting them through tests and so forth. But we got better and better over time. And normally we would have multiple rounds of interviews, and we would also have certain sets of questions that not only just to test their skills, but also more of their let's say emotional intelligence and aspects of will they be a good fit for our brand culture. So like one of the things I'd always ask people would be, so do you feel you're a positive person? And you'd be surprised how many people would be like, not really. No. Right then, all right, they're out. Because one of our brand attributes was all about having a positive mindset. And if they weren't going to have that, then why have them involved in our operations? It just didn't make sense. They weren't aligned with our brand culture. So
what would have been the right answer at that point?
The right answer would have been, yes, I have a positive mindset. I mean, of course, there's times when things are hard, but overall, in general, I have a positive mindset. I like to think positive. I like to go about my day in a positive manner to set out to achieve things. Something like that, And there'd be, quite a few people that would give an answer like that, of course, in their own way. And you can tell if they really believed it or not, because there's that aspect of like, hey, are they just kind of telling me what I want to hear? Or are they like, feeling it? Yeah. So it was stuff like that. And we really ended up developing a really strong brand culture. We actually won best places to work, top places to work from OC Register and also Orange County Business Journal 4 years in a row.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that was all just based on really developing that strong brand culture, which is funny because the most recent seminar, we were talking about the egregore that's created by defining the values. And we did an excellent job of that. It wasn't just set it and forget it. It was that reinforcing of that message and that thinking, so that those thoughts were reinforced at least on a quarterly basis. And every new person that came on board, I would take them through our brand guidelines doc and make sure that they understood what we stood for. This is our brand. This is what we stand for. This is our purpose. This is our mission. This is our vision. These are the things that we value. This is our personality, our characteristics. This is our operating code, how we go about operating on a day-to-day basis, which was set up in the form of affirmations, like positive affirmations. So I would spend usually an hour with every new hire myself, taking them through that. So, that egregore was definitely reinforced and continuing to gain power in a sense, and to where we were recognized. And then we actually stopped applying because we just got too busy. We were also at the same time had landed on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing private companies in the United States 5 years in a row.
Wow.
And during that same time was when we got the best places to work for. And we just were too busy. We're like, stop applying for that.
So for the people that don't know, an egregore in business is called group conscious.
Yes.
Yeah. And so for people that do practice esoteric training and stuff like that, egregore is that group consciousness that is very interesting, because it's like you start looking at if you grab any marketer today, they probably will be hang or burn on the stake. It's like they try to convince you to buy something that you don't need. Yeah. So it's like back then it was all the charlatans shows up, and the same idea. But it's when you start break it down, you can see all the terminologies of esoteric training and spiritual training translated into like marketing or business jargon.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Throwing the messaging out there and getting the emotional aspects, so it's not just all logical, but the emotions behind it, so that people could be influenced to buy, and hopefully there's some true societal value out of that, as opposed to questionable things that some people sell out there. But for us, we had actually defined
that you ever, I was sorry to interrupt, but that you ever went like, no, I won't work with this.
Yes.
It's like, this is bad karma.
Yes. Yeah, definitely turned away some clients. Like I remember one of the company that acquired us had called us, hey, are you guys okay with working with a tobacco company? No, sorry. No. Alcohol, didn't work with any alcohol companies, just didn't, wasn't aligned. And there's some other ones. I know there was like, just like shady financial stuff. Like, no, that looks kind of shady. No thanks. Yeah.
Pyramid schemes.
Yeah. Pyramid schemes or kind of like predatory.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just like, it looks like
what happened with the crypto world?
Right.
FTX sort of idea.
It was before the crypto stuff like came big, but it was more like, I think the ones I'm thinking about was more like the loans that were student loan type things. I'm trying to remember exactly, but it just seemed very predatory.
It was a lot of those in the early 2008.
It's around that time. Yeah, I remember it's basically some of that
they
stuff.
all restructured. Like it was like in that era, everybody was a real estate office. Yeah, it was like everybody works in real estate and they were buying houses. Like, this is not sustainable.
Yeah, I know, right?
And then they turned out to be all about being Facebook marketing gurus.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and that's that was like a golden era of Facebook marketing where, those people would do pretty good. But there's stuff like that. We just for the purpose that we defined is I have to paraphrase it, but is that we were facilitators in the free market system to allow companies that provide products and services to fulfill the marketplace of desires and wants and needs, so that a rhythm of life could be maintained, supporting peace, freedom, and prosperity. Which was like, what? This is what I would explain to people when they come on board. Because it's not about moving pixels around on a screen, and just straight up marketing. We were facilitators, enabling companies that provide value, and then the marketplace of consumers that have needs, wants, desires we were facilitators to enable those transactions to take place. And because of that, this great experiment that we're in, in this day, in this country, that there is a certain rhythm of life, that's how it was phrased, that is maintained where we have the freedom to pursue prosperity and live in relative peace. I'd always say, give the example, which was always funny, but we don't have to worry about the state of Nevada coming over here and invading us and taking our resources.
Maybe.
Who knows? Next year or two, right?
As it is now.
Now.
Maybe in November when Civil War starts.
I know, right? It's interesting because, when we're, now that in today's precarious times, it is very interesting.
Because if you allow the people of Peron, probably will do it.
Yeah. Yeah. But that was an example I would give where it's like, hey, in other parts of the world, that stuff happens and goes down, and we are so blessed to be here where we're able to do this. So, that provided a higher purpose, or, when things are a grind and are tough, like, oh, this person is demanding and this situation is just like, oh, this sucks. At least there's something that people could hold on to, like, well, even so, the work that I'm doing matters. There's purpose behind it.
Yeah,
it actually matters. So that was something that people really resonated with and they felt good about. Yeah. Today, we'll see what happens.
I think today it will also keep that value. I think it's going to be more challenging to do business with the attention span that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, I think everything changed. So
yeah, it did.
It was like, for us, it was internet, newspaper, whatever, radio, TV. It's always something the new generation.
Yes.
That is going to allow them to, outgrow those limitations, and business have to adapt to whatever is showing up. Yeah. Because if
Right. Yeah. If you don't adapt, you die. If you don't adapt and evolve, you survive. If you don't, you die. So that's simple.
What was some of the techniques that you guys had to, or you can recommend for people to do that, to be more agile in terms of adaptability and business?
I would say think in terms of frameworks. So what I mean by that is we had a delivery process defined. We called it the RI5 process. And it was a 5-step process of project execution. And these various steps in that process, were defined well, but it was meant to be scalable, a scalable framework. There was guidelines. There was enough structure where it provided guidance all the way through from the start to the end of a project, but yet there was freedom and the flexibility in this process framework to allow people to improvise and do things in a more agile fashion. So it's a great blend. When you look at the discipline of project management, you had the traditional waterfall approach where everything was planned out ahead of time, and then through a waterfall process, you progress through the project from start to finish. And then this whole agile methodology came around, which became the big rage, which was interesting. And to me, I saw a lot of, I don't know if I would say failures.
Yeah, fake people.
Yeah, fake people. Because, part of the problem I feel was that people really didn't execute it properly the way that it's meant to. And unfortunately, that methodology, especially if people aren't really disciplined with it, it tends to make them kind of noodle, and not be productive. And it blows out timelines and it blows out budgets, and things just, in our world of marketing communications where budgets were finite and timelines were finite, it was really challenging. I would see failure after failure. And our process framework, even though it was a waterfall approach, it had enough flexibility where we were able to integrate agile aspects into certain portions of it. So we were able to flex. So thinking in terms of frameworks where, you have these guiding principles or a guiding process, but you have the freedom to adapt, improvise, and adapt, to have that spontaneity. Like I mentioned, that's SCRA method, spontaneous, creative, rhythmic adaptation. To be spontaneous, to have innovative thinking, creativity, that rhythm, you're still following a general process. And then the adaptation, something happens, you're able to adapt and, make course corrections and so forth. That helped us tremendously, where we were able to execute big web projects, 6-figure web projects, on time and in budget, like time after time after time after time, again, which was very challenging in our world.
I think the problem with a lot of agile techniques, is they are not implemented by the company itself, but by consultants.
Yes.
And the consultant is like, well, it's your fault.
Yes.
They don't ever take responsibility for the thing. Yeah. It's like,
yes.
Well, we give you the framework. You just fail because you suck.
Yeah.
But we can help you to get better. You just have to pay another contract.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's something else I noticed. It's a good point you bring up, because the way I'd phrase it would be, wow, there's just way too many people talking about the work.
Yeah.
And not enough people doing the work.
Yeah, it's like in Argentina, I would say we have too many chiefs, not enough workers.
Right.
And it's like, who's doing the work? Why we have 20 million meetings about the meeting that we had 3 minutes ago?
Yes, that's right. Well, let's have a meeting to have a meeting. Let's have a meeting to plan the meeting.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. Yeah, 100%. I saw that a lot.
And I sometimes, I get hired, go to a company and I start looking around and I sit down at the end of the day and I'm like, how is this world moving?
Right. I know, right? How does this company make money? Right.
It's so slow. Like it's like nobody has made a decision.
Right. Yes.
And the ones they actually are keeping in things afloat is just the most invested of the company is the one they have less stake in the end of the day. As the guys working in the factory or doing the thing. Yeah. It's like, but the rest is like nothing is like you need approval to get an approval for the approval.
Yes.
And then you ended up with something that is not that great.
Yeah. It's like this whole design by committee. Yeah. Sometimes we'd have, there's this one client in particular I remember. Yeah. They had this committee. It was literally about, there was like a dozen, but it ended up being like 24 people involved. And it's like, how you can't come to any decisions. Like, everyone's going to have their subjective opinion. And round after round after round, and change order. You just can't operate that way. Yeah.
Yeah, because then they came out and said, exactly. Well, you called me like $100, and I'm like, yeah, it was for this.
Right.
But this, it becomes this now. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like this amount of work.
Yes. Yes. Actually, that one client in particular, one day I told them, after, that was going on, look, you guys, there's just way too many people involved. The only way this is going to get done, we're all going to sit in a room together, the main people, and we're going to go through this information architecture document for as long as it takes. And you guys are going to improve it. You're going to go through and mark every change, and that's going to be it. So, we sat in a room for 4 hours, and I made them go through every single page. But it was, enough's enough, because, everyone's well-intended. I think for the most part, everyone's well-intended, but there's different concerns, worries, fears, anxiety that pops up where, I got to be safe. Oh, if I make this choice, just everyone's going to look at me, I'm going to get fired, right? There's not me, right? There's all these different factors that come into play, human dynamics that make the world of business very interesting and challenging.
It's such a weird place.
It is.
And like you go there and then you go say, why are you guys doing this? And I think we missing a lot of the common sense. And like if you look at the world of construction, yeah, it's like they are like 20 years behind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe 15 years behind. And you have this guy who now is building, he's building like container homes. But he's a software engineer.
Oh, wow.
So he running the business as a software engineer, but it's a construction business.
Oh,
yeah?
interesting.
And he went for starting with $15,000, and now it's about, I think he's doing 15 million
Wow.
A month.
Wow.
Or a year, 15 million a year, yeah? But because he doesn't run it as a construction company, he run it as a software engineer.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a great example where someone that's outside of an industry can come in and bring in innovation to make major improvements within an industry. And that was one thing I noticed too with prospects, especially when they're, well, what have you done in our industry? You know, I was always like, what kind of experience do you have in our industry? And, you know, it was always a question to have to overcome if we didn't have any experience in the particular industry. We worked across all kinds of different industries. And tell, well, yeah, we don't have, you know, very much. However, do you want a Me Too approach? Do you just want a template and just look like everybody else? Or do you want to be able to have some innovation, that something that we've done in another industry that can actually come into play here and create new innovations and ways of doing things and help you stand out as opposed to looking like everybody else? Yeah, a lot of people get hung up on that because of that. Again, they want to be safe, you know, the danger of, am I going to get fired if I hire these guys? Like, ooh, I don't know, right? A lot of fears come into play. And I think a lot of people, that old antiquated lead by fear methodology of management, where they don't allow people to make mistakes. You know, we talked about earlier, making mistakes, failing often and learning. They just don't allow for that to happen. And that was one thing that, I didn't like it when people made mistakes, but it was like, okay, well, we learned, right? We're not going to do that again, right? You know, because I was that person, you know, that failed many times and made tons of mistakes. And that's really how I got so good at what I was doing there with the company, was through all that experience and it having the ability to be okay with allowing people to make mistakes and then guide them through that process and making sure that they become better because of it. It can just strengthen your organization for the long-term sustainability, and something that's definitely lacking out there.
It's interesting because it's a lot of those industry. Construction is one of them. Construction is one of the big ones. It doesn't, well, this is not how we do it. And I'm like, but that's how you are right now. Yeah. Because you do it different. Like, and the other one is related with oil and gas. Mm-hmm. Same thing.
Yeah.
It's just like that old mentality. This is what we do. And I'm like, yeah, but back then you have yellow pages. We don't, nobody use yellow pages right now. Yeah. And I think they missing valuable opportunities. And whoever who break the molds is successful fast. Yeah. It gets really quick results.
Yes.
Yeah. And you don't see that often. It's just weird.
It's weird. People, especially in very mature industries like that, you have people, they've been doing a certain way for decades upon decades. The same thing happened with in my industry, where if you took digital as a subsegment, but just incorporated the entire marketing and advertising industry, you had all the traditional companies and the digital companies, and the traditional companies, they just didn't get it. They didn't understand digital.
Well, I think the biggest mistake the companies make is putting marketing into information technology.
Yes.
They put them together, and I'm like, no, that should be a completely different department. Yeah.
Yeah.
the IT person doesn't have nothing to do with marketing. Yeah, the IT person is like the ones that's like, make sure your email works. But when it comes to like creating an ad campaign and all those things, or building the website, he can work on the back end, but you need a different completely team. And I think when most company they put them together, they make it. That's a huge mistake.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely saw that at times. It was funny. Sometimes we'd have to go in and speak to the IT department because marketing was like under there. Well, we can do that. Well, we can do that when we say, this is what we can do, blah, blah, blah. And why aren't you doing it? And marketing has certain, the needs. They need to get the messages out there so they can drive revenue, attract consumers. And the IT is, like you said, it's more about, let's make sure our systems are running and stable, and it's not about the attracting customers, and it's a whole different mindset.
Yeah, but the still today, a lot of companies put it under the same umbrella.
It's weird.
You will be better hire a high schooler. It's like, I'm gonna take a leave year, come into our marketing, like the social media. It will be better than having the guys who working on the server room.
Right. And nothing gets done.
Yeah.
They're spending all their time making sure systems are up and running.
Oh, this is not secure.
Or secure, right?
I cannot send this email because what happened? Or I cannot open this because it's like, if you send an email that way.
Right.
I'm like, okay. You know who's doing it? Your competition is doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I have calls to that a lot, and you talk to people, say, no, you cannot do it that way. It is not, IT is not digital marketing. They're two different things.
100%. Yeah. And then back around the 2008 period, when we had the Great Recession, Depression, whatever you want to call it, at the time, that's when you saw a whole bunch of traditional agencies got decimated by that time period because they just were not adapting to digital and the new way of doing things. They were just so stuck in how they did things for decades, especially like I noticed it with brand people that did a lot of traditional brand work. They do these beautiful, like 100-page brand identity documents, brand guidelines documents, and have all these examples of what the brand looks like in print and outdoor advertising and just all these in the physical world, right? And then the only mention of digital would be the logo on the back of an iPad case. Like, what? I mean, really? I mean, it's like, hey, this is like 2012. Like, digital is not an afterthought. We took a digital first approach to branding. Not to ignore the traditional approach, but take that, embrace it, but think of digital as first, because that's how people were starting to discover and engage with brands first, was through the phones. All right. So it's just, to your point, when people are used to doing things in their old-fashioned way, that especially if it's a mature industry, if they don't adapt and evolve with the times, they can suddenly find themselves out of business. And if they do embrace something new, then they could take advantage and have great success, like the earlier example. But if they don't, all of a sudden the industry gets disrupted because of innovation and technology and so forth. They could just end up going by the way of like the dinosaurs.
I was working for this construction company, helping them with marketing and creating campaign and setting them up for the biggest trade show in construction in the world. So the guy called me and I'm like, hey, we hired this guy. And I'm like, he's a genius about marketing. And I was like, great, I would love to have a genius, to learn, because it's like, it's a new stuff, so if this guy is what it said it is, and then I find out it was the brother of the owner of the company. And he was great doing marketing in the probably 70s when he was using newspaper. And so he's like, I sent him an email and I don't hear, and I say, hey, I haven't heard for so-and-so. What's happening? It's like, oh, yeah, he looked at your email and then he will, it's like, I cannot work like this. He was in the Bay Area. So it's like, I just want to go there because, it's a trade show. I have to like have everything ready.
Yeah.
Ship to ship. I don't know where it was in Florida. Yeah.
Okay.
It was in Orlando. Ship it to Orlando and then do it from there. And I go and I set up the meeting and I say, okay, let's work together in this room. Let's get it done. So I can get the approval, send it to the printer, and then they can. For now, I don't have time. They have to ship it straight to Orlando and, pray for the best.
Right. That's the best when it's a rush situation like that.
So I go in and I say, oh, Diego, I didn't know how I send you some packaging. And I thought it was an email. But no, he sent me. So the day before I have to go meet at his office in the Bay Area, before I leave, I got, the yellow legal paper.
Yes. Yep.
And I opened it, and it was a collage.
Oh,
no.
Did he like paste up?
He designed the flyers for the event, and he grabbed piece of newspapers.
Oh my gosh.
And they cut it, and glue it together, and you go, this is how you need to do it.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
And I was like, it looks like a psycho note. Yeah, it's like he's asking for ransom or something. But I said, okay, let's get together. So I ended up going. We put it together, and then we look for the approval. And it's one of those things. Was like is the brother of the owner.
I know. I was just saying, what can you say, in that situation, right?
And then when things didn't work out, well, you didn't do what. Just say, because what you give me is like, it's like a random note.
Garbage in, garbage out.
But so a lot of those things is like, those people that didn't adapt and still in there. It's a lot of that. Yeah, it's a lot of the pieces of the world that haven't evolved. And I don't know now with social media and you have Facebook, Instagram, all those things are like even evolving faster.
Yeah, and then you couple it with AI, and now things are evolving even faster when you couple AI with social media and production tools, and wow, just everything is just changing so fast. It reminds me of when I first started, like every single week in the mid to late 90s, there was some new technology coming out. Oh, I gotta learn this. Oh, look at this. This is new. It's like that, but now I think it's even faster. It's crazy how fast everything.
What did they say I think the number is off, but I think the last number that I hear was AI will become sentient. They won't need us anymore by 2040. I think that is like...
I can see that because that's enough time to have robots driven by AI. Once the robotics gets to the certain level and you got all these robots running around but are driven by AI, that they can do a huge amount of displacement. This is an interesting topic. I'm very interested to hear what you have to say. In the sentience of AI, perhaps that's possible. But I do feel that any sort of machinery, like look at healthcare and there's all these medical devices and things that you hear about, like medbed this and all that. Interesting, and maybe that can be effective in work, but with the work that we do, Qigong and so forth, there's that divine intelligence, that divine energy. I just don't know if machines have that capability. It's like it's artificial, right? It's not.
I'm gonna put my aluminum hat.
Yes, please.
Right now, and if you start breaking it out, and you just look with the grain salt, yeah, like a huge grain of salt. It's like we are machines.
Yeah, we're
like a
artificial
quantum machine. Yeah, I believe medical qigong, it will be, and this is why I'm so involved in progressing this medicine, because I believe when people realize what medical qigong is capable of, it will be the medicine of the AI. Because you just not treating, well, we don't treat it, that's illegal, but we're just not working with it in a physical aspect of it, but you look at an energetic and a spiritual level of it. And what I envision, is AI eventually will be able to have yin eyes.
Interesting.
And it will be some sort of glass, or some sort of like goggles version of it, that you can see the different levels and how the body energetically and spiritual works, and then you will be able to remove a stagnation that is causing the issue.
Yeah, if I'm tracking with you, I could see where the science evolves so much where it's really able to develop the machinery to detect the various light frequencies, right? And now
what is the interference?
Right. Yeah, it removes all that interference, and it's able to see the spectrum of sight is expanded, that what these devices are able to see.
Yeah,
I could see that. I guess my question is, if I understood you correctly, I have my own similar thoughts where humans were kind of like the ultimate AI, artificial intelligence, as opposed to divine intelligence. Yeah. But we have the ability to connect to divine intelligence, and that's where I see the difference between us and machines. Like, do the machines have that ability to connect to divine intelligence? I mean, I don't see that. Obviously I could be wrong for sure, but it's interesting that you talked about, I could see the scientific aspects of enabling the machines to see the full spectrum of light and frequency and the energy. But that ability to connect to divine energy, I just don't see how machines can do that. Interesting what your take is on that.
But if they keep evolving, they become the own. It's a TV show. I watch it early and I'm like, oh shit, we are close to that. And now we are, and is the Travelers.
I haven't seen that.
So the Travelers, the idea of the TV show, the Travelers, is that you have this ultimate AI sending people back to the past to stop the born of the ultimate machine, the AI that controls everything. Yeah,
to stop itself.
Yeah.
Oh wow, interesting.
It's like 4 seasons. Start really slow, and then you start seeing a lot of things. It's like, oh yeah, that will work. Oh, that will work. Yeah, that will work.
Interesting. I guess it comes down to if AI could truly become sentient, right? If it could actually have a consciousness aspect to it, then it could connect to divine intelligence.
But that's sort of hard, yeah? Because it's like, we cannot even define what consciousness is.
True, right?
So how we can tell something, oh, you're not conscious. And I'm like, why? Because you're not. You're a machine. And I'm like, well, define consciousness. And I don't think we can.
Yeah, we're still discovering what that is, really. Yeah, it's evolving as our understanding of it. Yeah.
So I think that it will be an interest. The next, 10, 15 years will be interesting.
It will be very interesting. We'll find out. We'll see what happens.
Well, the next generation, we went for especially Gen Xers, we went from pick up the phone and some of us have the disc phone number, to we were some of the first ones on the internet.
Yes, absolutely.
We were one of the first ones. So we went yellow pages, you used to come and they used to drop this book every year.
Yeah, we're special that we're in this. We witnessed the transitionary phase of the old into the new.
And on top of all of that, we were pharaohs. Like, nobody cared about us.
Yes, that's
like,
right.
our parents is like,
Yeah, they're too busy.
do you know where your children's are? The news have to tell them at 10 o'clock, because it's like, we were letting us inside the house only, when it was time for dinner.
Yeah, always out and about.
It was I saw this guy, it was a meme talking about why you guys drinking water for the hose? Is a sink wasn't an option? And I'm like, bro, we don't let it inside the house.
Yeah.
It was like that warm summer water.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for us, it's like we haven't experienced all of that. And I think it's a big shift. And I don't know the generations, but I think that the new one coming, people was born, the alphas, the later generation.
No, the ones that are coming out right now. Yeah, you got X, Y, Z, and now the alphas are coming. Yeah.
Okay, alphas. I think the alpha generation that was born in 2010.
Yeah, I think so, because both my kids are Gen Z, and my daughter was 2009, right at the cusp of before the alphas.
Yeah, so the alphas born in 2010. Yeah, so I think those kids are craving more. You see more analog stuff. I don't know if analog is the right way, but they know that they can see how much of the psychosis and neurosis is creating with the social media.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. The Gen Z is the biggest challenge, I think. It's interesting because our generation, we built the internet, and the millennials, Gen Y, they grew up with the internet, and then Gen Z was born with the internet. And now you have the alphas too. Like, are they going to kind of do the rebellion, the typical rebellion of going against the grain? We'll see. But
I hope so.
Because the way I see Gen Z is just extremely challenged.
And I think the other issue that most people are not talking about is like, who is programming the AI?
Yes.
Who's giving it the data? Yeah,
that's right. What biases are being programmed on based on the other people in control?
And it's just like, it's not like political. It's just like, okay, if you have all the AI or most of the AI being work in the Bay Area, in San Francisco Bay Area, and you have all that input that's just like from the left, and then you don't have nothing for the right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, that AI, it will be leaning towards that.
Yeah.
And I think is making a disservice. Yeah. It's just the country's enough separated as it is now, but having the disservice of these two things not being balanced. Yeah. Just put it all together. If the machine is smart enough, we'll figure it out. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's because they have to learn itself.
Yeah.
But if you're giving just one side of the picture without the other side of the picture, you will have a different outcome.
100%.
Let it have it. Let it have it. The whole everything.
Yeah. The truth is
everything.
The truth is cloaked because of the biases of the group that controls, that puts it in. It's it then begs the question that all of us have to ask. Straight out of the Matrix: what is real? Yeah, especially when you start mixing AI with the ability to do all this creative stuff with video and everything, and then you get these people with certain biases that are able to produce AI of situations and scenes with people, like deep fakes and all that. Like, what is real?
It's I saw a video the other day. Is a like CNN or Fox News version of it,
mm-hmm.
but it's all AI generated.
Yeah,
and it's like all fake news. All the old people, but it was like make it believe it was what it was.
Yeah.
And if you see the difference between the video, it's a video or the first video generated AI, it was Will Smith eating pasta, and it looks horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at the ones the GTP4 is doing, is like, oh my God, it's like. You can see it's missing some reflections on things like that. but the hands are almost accurate and the hairs are almost accurate. So it's like, well, wait a minute. What you're telling me is like that this is, and we will know. I think we will know what was true or not. We still, as it is now, without AI, they can mask any sort of footage to make you believe it or not. Yeah, but you will be living. I guess for magicians will be great because it's like you're living in a dream. You don't know which one is up and down. Yeah, so it's like you might be able to manifest more things.
Yeah,
it's like it's sleep deprivation. Yeah,
you're right. Right.
So you don't know.
Yeah.
What to believe.
Yeah, you don't know what to believe. Whether what is real. But I guess and that's interesting because the ability to then manifest if just focusing on what you want to create. Yeah.
But one of the things that I have noticed is when especially in the field that you company used to be, marketing, when it comes to that, if people they use AI as it is now, yeah. So no one in a couple of years, but as it is now, if you use AI to create a marketing campaign or like create an ad or things of that nature, it doesn't transmit spirit.
That's kind of what I'm getting at when I talked about the ability to connect to divine intelligence, right?
As it is now.
As it is now, yeah. Right. And that, I guess, that's where my mind isn't there yet. And, it's interesting, your perspective on it. Yeah, it's very interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but you feel that at some point it will be able to. Possibly.
Well, what I think it will happen, two things that it might happen. One is what's happening right now with a lot of individuals that they don't have any spiritual practice. So they will know what that even is.
Right. Especially if they're deadened by certain medications that
just leave the medications aside. Yeah. And if you no longer have a connection, any sort of connection, with even other people, like having a spiritual practice would be like, hey, talk to someone and look it straight in the eye,
right.
shake their hands, giving a hug,
right,
just at that level. If you remove that, you remove a special component, and that spiritual muscle won't be developed. So the AI can convince you to anything. As it is now, you have that.
Yes.
So they did this, I think it's Hungary. It's like, I'm going to butcher the country. So Eastern Europe. And Eastern Europe, I don't know which country, there was, it was from this, for this orphanage. It was run by the Catholic Church. I'm not saying nothing about the guys. I'm not going political. Church is facts, It was run by the Catholic Church. And what will happen is most of the kids that coming out from that orphanage, they were having autism.
Interesting.
And they didn't know why. It's like, well, everybody comes out of here. Are they poisoning the kids? So what's happening? Is it in the environment? And what they find out was the kids, they will spend almost like 18 hours looking into a ceiling.
Wow.
So they didn't learn to recuse.
Right.
The only time that they had the cue was like when they given the bottle, change the diapers of giving it a bath. But for most of the development, they were staring at a white ceiling.
Oh, wow.
So they didn't learn how to learn cues.
Interesting.
And I think we've seen a version of it now with people doesn't know how to read cues.
Yeah, that's part of the big challenge with Gen Z, that they're so stuck to screens. different types of screens. That's all they're living in. And there's that lack of human interaction that you were talking about a couple minutes ago. And in this example too, the cues that are missing, how spiritually they can become so disconnected as well. And yes, they're vulnerable to the machinations of AI, which is controlled by certain interests that are going to be able to have a population that is much more susceptible to being manipulated.
Well, what most people don't understand is like when you put a kid on the screen, within the first 3 or 4 years of development, they don't have the capacity to look away.
Right. Yes.
They cannot look away. So if you put something that is in front of them, and they're focusing there, so it's nothing that you can do to break that. So you have to scream or like do something else. That's the reason when you put it away, they go like ballistic. Yeah. Understand what happened? I'm like, he's overstimulated.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
So I think when you're moving forward, I think AI, I don't know if it's going to become sentient. Well, I think what we're saying sentient is going to have, so it's like consciousness and a spiritual component of it. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if that's necessarily the case in the beginning, but because people will become less spiritual and less conscious, will have a more and the impact towards them and the way they were able to communicate.
100% agree, which is why the work that we do is so important, and getting people, whether it's introduced or further down a path to develop their spiritual connection. It's more important than ever.
What is interesting going back to business is if you look at into a company and the way that sometimes I break it down, it's like if you look at a person, you have your physical body and you have your energetic body and your spiritual body. When it comes to companies that are successful, is usually they work the physical body, as the function. It's like the people works on the fabric and it works on the plant and the salespersons and all that. And then you have your energetic body that's more like your management. So management is like it's become the glue between the C levels, and that will be the spirit body. And what happened is, I think a lot of individuals, they were in the spiritual, not in the C-suites, they know this more to this, to making money. The problem that we have is now the old school ones, they understand that they need to work hard, or they need to work or put the time to become more spiritual, because eventually that will trickle down into their business. It will make it healthier and more prosperable, and it will help more people. But I think it's like now the new generation say, oh, so and so is a spiritual, and I'm like, maybe they're doing mushrooms or whatever. So they microdose, and I'm like, and they open a door, and they might be more than ideal for them, and then they will cause more harm. They will be successful. So I think it's like, the reason I was telling you that is like, have you find the people who are in C levels, so they are in the, like a CEO, CFO, and all those positions that are more tend to learn spirituality.
I feel that in the past 5 years, especially, there's been a lot of people in those levels that have gravitated towards this movement, and much more so even 10 years ago, like having a conversation like this with someone on the outside 10 years ago, yeah, maybe here and there. 20 years ago, forget it, right? But in the last 5 years, I'd say, especially in the last 3 or so, I'm just coming across it more and more where, yes, these C-level executives.
They're more in the open.
Much more in the open, much more receptive in wanting to learn and understand and develop their own understanding. So, yeah, I think there's much more of these people, these executives wanting to embrace this path. And it's interesting what you mentioned before about like the microdosing. And I think that a lot of the people that, are seeking, unfortunately, especially with like the millennial generation, that wanting to take shortcuts, I want it now, hurry, rather than take the slow as fast.
I think sometimes I was like, because, they get so protective when you say, but imagine the energetic patterns, yeah? So you have an energetic pattern. If you get more that your body can handle at this point, you will get burned.
Right.
So it's going to be contraindicated in any single level.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, because it's like we're talking about energy, yeah? So, I had this trip and I went and they told me all these things, whatever, yeah? Whatever the story is, it doesn't matter. But if you can know, even if that's true, and then you implement it and it doesn't work, well, it might have been because it was in a different state of mind, yeah? Or it might have been that you had for that to work, you have to work on yourself and clean up all these things that you haven't done yet.
Right.
Because it's the same idea. If you look with people, they go, they win the lottery. But like in 18 months, they're broke again.
Yeah.
And if you hear people talk and they go like, what happened is the money burns in my pocket. And I'm like, the money, the feeling and sensation is the money burns in your pocket is because you haven't achieved the level of energetic or the frequency of that money. So it will burn you.
Yes.
Same thing if you do, if you take microdosing and you haven't achieved a level of clearance to be in that area, it will burn you. And that's the reason that with a lot of these companies and CEOs like the Zappos guy, yeah, they ended up having really bad trips because they haven't worked on themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know if the new generation doesn't understand that, or we haven't explained it well enough, or they're just prostituting these plants and these modalities that were keeping secret and sacred for one person to do, so the tribe doesn't die, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I think there's a lot of factors at play. Yeah, all that, and plus people being in a hurry, wanting the instant gratification, the shortcut, rather than doing the work, like you talked about, the necessary work to clean yourself up, to enable you to have that space so that you can handle that energy and you don't overload your nervous system. Just like if people are out, certain audience members that may be watching this and they're like, well, what the heck are they talking about? They can think of it as the terms of the power strip, that if there's a lightning strike outside, that the power is throttled enough so it doesn't fry your electronic components, right? So kind of a similar way where you have all this spiritual energy, that you have this flood of energy based on a certain practice that comes in, and it doesn't overwhelm your nervous system as long as you've done that work, that preparatory work, and you have that power strip in place in a sense. You're able to manage through that. But yeah, a lot of people aren't taking the time, or maybe they haven't come across the right person to guide them properly. There's just so much going on with so many people interested with this whole consciousness shift that's been occurring over the past decade. And, yes, some people find the right people to help guide them through the process, but then others are coming across others that, they're taking shortcuts. And one of my first Qigong instructor, one of the things that I always valued that he taught me, because I was in a rush when I first started learning Qigong from him, Russ Anderson. He always told me, slow is fast. Don't be in a rush. Slow is fast. Slow is fast. Okay. Took me a little bit of time to, understand, but it's true. And I think that's one of the factors just in managing a bunch of people in today's society and seeing how much of a rush everyone is in, wanting to do shortcuts or just even have the discipline to do work, is interesting there's a lack of discipline in general, I'll say. I don't want to totally stereotype, but hey, it's out there.
I think, it seems that way. I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and it seems that way, but also it's like, because they haven't been introduced. And what's very interesting is when they get into it, and they start seeing the results of the training, they train harder.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The other generations. So
right, yeah. It's not all bad. There's great qualities of these generations. When they're steered in the right direction and they get to work, amazing. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very I'm like, I don't like to think much about the future, but it's hard to not look at it with all these advancements that we have and the tremendous growth with AI today. It's just going to be very interesting, and all these ancient practices must evolve with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one thing that I don't think it will change, it was the ability to be quiet. Just be quiet.
Right, yeah.
Just allow the dust to settle and being able to connect with source, whatever that means.
Which is another very challenging thing in this day where there's so many distractions, so much noise that people are encountering constantly, especially with the phone.
But this is like, I think, yes. And also, I was talking with Rinpoche, with this Tibetan Rinpoche, and he was saying, "Oh, you guys are so lucky," and I'm like, "No, you guys are so lucky." And I was like, we were back and forth a while, and I'm like, and then I got smart because it's like, oh, he actually wants to share with me why we were so lucky, and I'm like, Rinpoche, why you say we are so lucky? And he goes, it's like, oh, you're doing the same training that we do. But you have mortgages, you have kids, you have a job, you have insurance, you have to show up for work, you're dealing with traffic. And on top of that, you have to be mindful and do same training. And I was like, is you having all this noise on top, it's different for like someone born in the village in the middle of the Himalayas, and it takes the animals just to graze in the vast valley of the Himalayas, and there's no noise. So like anybody can be mindful in there.
Right.
But if you grab that person, put it in here, and I give it all your responsibilities, he's gonna be like struggling hard.
Yeah. So I totally get what you're saying, because it's kind of that demonstration of true mastery when you're able to be calm within all the chaos. And be able to be still and despite all that. And we have the opportunity to develop in that type of environment, and guide other people that are willing to do the work to achieve this level of mastery.
Have you in your company, when you were running your company, have you ever broad spirituality when you employees? That you guys did retreats or stuff like that?
So
It was more like your secret sauce.
I was pretty undercover about it. Yeah, I think there was really, so I had started studying Qigong in 2014, and I was totally under the radar. And not that I wasn't wanting to share it, it just seemed like it was going to be weird for me to be like the boss, but yet, you know, I don't know, giving them like spiritual guidance or some sort. There's only one person that knew what I was doing in the company, one of my top people. And, but there was towards the end where I did introduce a couple little things here and there, like my management team. I showed them how to meditate. Yeah, because one of them expressed interest, and I was talking about it, and just in general conversation. And I thought, well, this could be cool. It could benefit them, and they could appreciate it. And they did. They really appreciated it. Especially one gentleman talked about he was continuing to do it, and it was cool. And then we'd have quarterly staff meetings, all company meetings, and I did a quick little guided meditation with them also, which went over really well. Very positive. But that was about it. I didn't let them know like, hey, I'm doing healing work and all this. Come see me, right? Yeah, that I just definitely had a clear line of separation, because I thought it would be challenging to have that dual relationship going on. So I was pretty undercover about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. At least with the people in my company, people that I'd meet on the outside and network and talk. Sometimes it would come up, and just people that I would talk to, hey, come in for a session. Oh, okay, cool. And I started getting a bunch of people in the business world coming to see me, for session work.
Oh, for session, no. But I was thinking like the farther you took, and it was like, oh, let me teach you how to come back to the center or meditate.
Oh yeah. There's a couple little instances here and there, and then a couple of people that did express interest. So I'd have more deeper conversations about it. But it's really only a couple instances that I shared with the general group overall, and then the various aspects of the healing and the intuitive ability, I kept that to myself. I just use it more as a field to practice and kind of.
Have you had in any given moment when you were working in a project or something, and then you have some stroke of divine inspiration or divine warning? How do you manage to bring it to someone's attention without saying, oh, I receive it for the time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There would definitely be moments where I felt, extremely like, oh, yeah, no, not this. This is what it is. And it would just be kind of just had this, and it was interesting as I started learning and developing this further, I started to realize, oh, okay, well, this makes sense because I've actually been doing this a long time and I just really didn't realize it.
The knowing without knowing.
Yeah, the knowing without knowing. And that was something that I've been doing for a very long time. And as I started doing this work more, I started recognizing, oh, okay, that's why I was able to do this at this moment. And okay, now I get it. So it was more of continuing to do that to a greater degree, though, because now I was able to recognize it. Because, if I started letting people know, like, oh, I'm getting divine inspiration, blah, blah, they'd be like looking at me like, what? And I'd probably get more pushback.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Yeah, so I just kept that to myself. Yeah.
I used to get hired. Sometimes I do. I'm very selective now, but I got this guy calling me once. It was this company was about to pitch an investment for a software. And they say, well, I hear that you have certain abilities, he says. And I'm like, yeah, I can read people. And he goes like, well, what are you doing this Saturday? And I'm like, I guess I'm meeting you. He's like, yeah. Well, you can come. It's going to be this, they're going to pitch us about this new software and a new business. So I want you to come and sit in the room with us. It's not a test. Of course it was. I'm like, great. So they go through the whole page, and it was the main guy is sitting on my left, and then across the board, the table, it was the other two guys and the other guys who hired me. And so they go, and I say, well, do you have that? Because they push, well, you have to give us an answer now because we're going to a meeting next Monday, and we want to come out of here with a check. And so the other guys, one of the guys who it was all in it, was just like, take my money, yeah? And the other guy who hired me said, I already made the decision. And I was your decision. I said, no, I don't want to hear your decision. My decision is I won't give money to this guy at all. And I'm like, why? And I'm like, you don't want to hear it's not about business. That business is a good idea. And I'm like, but so why? And I'm like, well, this guy that's sitting right next to me, he doesn't know, but he has cancer. Or he does and haven't told anyone. And for the way that he behaves, this is going to get to the stage 4 pretty quick.
Right.
And the other two, without him, because this is the brain, won't be able to pull it through. So you're going to lose all that money.
Right.
And he's So we have to convince the other one who has the check out and are ready to start writing checks, and then I said, well, what are we telling? I said, and I told this guy, I said, well, why are you not telling the truth? Why are we not telling like what I say? And he said, but this guy is from the South, and I'm like, okay, so you just go full on, yeah? I was telling the truth, the best. But we're going to tell them, say, oh, this is the brain. And I can come out with the story, like, this guy doesn't like these guys, but they didn't like, let's tell them the truth. And he goes, okay. And the guy goes, okay. I don't trust you, he pointed at me, yeah? I trust him judgment.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, great. Hey.
Yeah, interesting.
6 months later, I get a phone call. All the people that invest money, they lose it because the guy got he had stage 4 cancer.
Yeah,
and they had to shut down the company, the operation. So since that, it's like, hey, whenever. So I used to go sit down in the boardroom just to be there and give him my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's cool.
The other thing that I used to do for this guy, it was like reading his emails. Because in the email, because it's a thought and intention comes.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're getting the true intention.
Yeah. So it's like, well, I don't care what they say. This is what they mean.
Right. That's cool.
So you answer the base of this.
Yeah.
And they will be like,
how would that information come across, Doc? How would you receive that intention information? I'm curious. I'm always super curious as to how people, I know you can see energy and all that, but when you're looking at an email, how are you able to pick up on the intention of the email?
It's the interference.
The interference.
So I don't know if it's in a specific name, but I call it interference. Okay. You're reading, and it's not my lack of understanding English. It's like I have to read the email 5 different times because the intention and the words reading in it, they're not the same.
So is it kind of a knowing without knowing type of thing for you when you're reading the email?
Well, the first thing that I look is it's an interference in there, So you can you read the whole thing through and make sense at once?
Okay.
And if you can, most often than not, whatever they were feeling at the moment,
I see.
It's come through,
It's clear intention, clear message.
100%.
Able to pick up on the meaning. Yes, okay.
The other is like now is like, this is when it get iffy, because you have to be able to be clear on this. It's like, so you're reading it next and it's some sort of interference.
I see. So the more convoluted it is.
It's not congruent.
Right.
Energetically, and physically it's not congruent.
Right. Okay.
The one thing is not like the other, so it doesn't match up.
Yeah.
And then you have to continue reading it and know a little bit of the history between these two bodies to understand if it's like maybe he just fought with his wife and he wrote it down, and that with that energy,
Right.
and now it's coming through sucks.
Right. Interesting. That's fascinating.
Or he's actually saying one thing and is trying to get advantage of a situation to get something else.
Right.
Which one is it?
Right.
And this is, I think, when a lot of natural people with have natural abilities, psychic, they get sent into trouble because they don't go beyond of like, oh, this is off. They must be trying to deceive you. They instead then be like, oh, this is off because all these things that happen in someone's life. And to be fair, you don't even know what someone's life happened to, but knowing the history between two people or how they've been interacting, it give you a better understanding. It's like, this is not what they mean. And sometimes it's not bad. Sometimes there are people that sucks in communicating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of times I respond to emails that people send me to me, and I respond to I'm gonna be like, hey, I know that this is what you wrote, but I think this is what you're asking.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, thank you. And I'm like, because it's like, they don't know how to express that.
Right.
And the other thing that you have is when someone asks you for something, they're gonna start to fluff it up, and they're really bad to do it. So it seems slimy, but because they don't know how to ask for what they need. So they have to like create a story, and then they become slimy.
Yeah, I understand.
So it's a lot of those things. It's like, well, talk to me. Hey, I got this email. This is what I say. It doesn't seem like it's right.
Yeah.
Whatever they're asking is something is off. So just tell me a little bit about it. Yeah. And they go, so we be having these conversations, stuff like that. So, okay, that makes sense now. This is what they're really asking.
Yeah. That's fascinating because through my experience, that email channel is often so filled with misinterpretations, two people communicating via email, and this person thinks they meant this when they didn't, and vice versa. And all of a sudden there's this big argument. It's like just a misunderstanding. And what a neat offering of skill that you're able to provide, that value of being able to.
If you get a text message or WhatsApp message, a signal, like whatever, like any written communication, and I'm not able to bring clarity to my answer, I will be say, hey, can I get you on the phone? Can we pick up the phone? Because it's like most people, they get offended super quick. What do you mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it wasn't bad. It's like, you can know when you're talking to someone, that doesn't show up. The intent or the tone of voice doesn't show up. So people read it according with their limitations.
Right, and they misinterpret. There's a chance of misinterpreting.
But this is self-esteem piece, So if you're dealing with someone that I want to make a deal of, and I say, oh, no, I cannot talk today. You say, oh, they don't like me. And I'm like, no, that's not what it says.
Yeah.
They say they cannot talk today.
Right.
Your answer, it will be like, oh, that's great. When can you talk?
Right.
Don't be like, well, I don't want to talk to them anymore because they don't like me and they just flip me off. And I'm like, dude, it's super busy, yeah?
Yeah.
So, and it's something that in today's day, communication is very challenging because it's like we're losing a lot of the cues.
Yes.
We don't have.
Yes.
And that it makes a challenge,
and from my experience, it seems that 95% of all the problems in the workplace and probably in general are rooted in communication issues, whether
lack
it's
of communication,
a lack of communication and misunderstanding and misinterpretation. Yeah, all these aspects that deal with communication, that whatever those issues are, that's the root of, I'd say, 95% of challenges, problems.
I think so. If you look back, I started teaching online in 2008. Everybody told me I was out of my mind. You cannot teach medical Qigong. You cannot teach spirituality through a monitor. And I'm like, interested enough, when the pandemic hit, all these people, they said, will you help me get online? So I thought it's like, it doesn't work. For the last 15 years, you tell me I'm doing a snake oil salesman, yeah. And now it's like all of a sudden it's like right. I'm the guy for you. Yeah, I will help you. This information is to get out there is more important than my ego. But the whole thing is when these people come to me, yeah. So like, when the pandemic hits, hey, Diego, will you help me to get online? I'm like, yeah. My first thing for them is that you need to teach your students how to interact with the screens. So what do you mean? I said, well, they usually, when it's a screen in front of them, our generation is learned to be disconnected. Yeah, it's like they get a beer, they come home, they get a beer, and they put like, whatever, General Hospital, I don't know anything. Yeah. So like they put whatever
some Netflix show.
Whatever show is on their rotation, yeah.
Right.
They put Game of Thrones, they get a beer, and that's it. They numb themselves out.
Right, yeah.
So when it comes to like interact with screens, they do the same thing. So you try to combine all this information, and if you don't teach them to be present,
yes. That's
what happened is like they're disconnecting, and it's just pouring water in an upside down cup. It's nothing going in, yeah?
Yeah.
And the other thing when it comes to business is when they interact, yeah, and you have what happened with you have all these Zoom meetings that you have in the schools and everything. Well, what do you learn to interact with people so everyone become an actor? Yeah, so everybody is like in front of cameras now. It's like, oh, get the right lighting. We need a green screen. Yeah. We need the right makeup. Yeah, so everybody become overnight to be an actor.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's true.
And the problem with that is like you put a mask that disassociated yourself from it. So even though I'm having a talk to you about something, it's not me. It's the version of me they believe they have to be in front of a screen.
Right.
So now that's interference, yeah?
Yeah.
That information is contaminated.
Right.
So it doesn't come clear. And even they say, great, yeah, I love your idea. The other person, intuitively, yeah, because he's been dealing with people face to face, understand like that person doesn't like my idea.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so and then you have all this disconnected.
Yes.
But they all happen because of that, because it's like we didn't learn how to interact on the screens as well, because who you see on the screen? An actor.
Yeah.
They all look like $1 million.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, I have to get my makeup done to go to
Yeah.
You cannot have a bad day because, you don't.
Yeah.
As if I had a bad day at the office. I show up and my hair is all messed up. I can put a hat and I drink coffee. It's not a record of that. I mean, the security camera maybe, but it's not a record of me being like today is like that.
Yeah.
But when you are in a meeting, it's like, hey, everybody's in there, everybody. Even though most people were like wearing a nice shirt and underwear.
I was just gonna say that, right? Yeah, up here it's all good,
But we all became that. That is not true. And The advantage for me is starting teaching in 2008 and doing distance sessions with a little app called Skype. I don't know if it still exists right now.
I think it's still out there somewhere.
I think they dropped the ball somewhere. But I used Skype, and when I teach classes, I used to use a company called Ubu. It was OOBOO, and it was like with Soonest now. Yeah. So I used to teach that way. But the advantage, it was back then when you say, hey, we're going to have a distance sessions. I never used the phone. I used to make people download Skype.
I see. That's how I do my distance sessions, is through Zoom or Google Meet. But yeah, that's the way I'm most comfortable with.
But you know what was the advantage of it back then? Mm-hmm. Most computers, most people have desktops.
Right.
There weren't laptops.
Right.
Or the Zoom app didn't work for video, and and your iPhone 4.
Yeah.
It's not even iPhone 4. It's the first generation iPhone. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So it wasn't the app. The best you can do is talk to someone through the app, but it wasn't video quality. The advantage of that back on the day is how you can see when you're looking at a client. Yeah. You look at the client, and I didn't care what the client looks like. Yeah. Because it's like, but you look at the back, I will be like,
oh, everything like their environment.
Yeah, it wasn't like blur backward. You cannot put a picture behind
or fake background. Yeah,
you cannot do any of that. So if your house is a mess, they give you the back. It's like, oh, that's how your internal organs function.
Right. Yeah. That additional information that you're able to get because of that's funny. That's interesting.
So now people is aware of that. And it's sort of disadvantage for you, but it's like, oh, I'm going to be in this corner of the house. They should set up. But if you turn the camera around, it's like, you've been robbed.
Right. It's like disaster.
Somebody walk in and it's like ransack your house.
Right. All right. Time to break out the, clear all disasters.
Yeah, but that's what happens. Yeah. So now you have this sort of disadvantage of it. Yeah. But then going back, it's like, oh, they're actors. They're putting a facade.
Yeah.
They don't show enough who they truly are. Mm-hmm. And it's gonna continue, but that's what a lot of the disconnect I think is happening, with the companies. It's like, well, you're meeting with an actor right now. You're not meeting with Sally. Yeah. You're meeting the version of Sally that needs to be in front of the screen with the green background and the right lighting, because if she looks, and that is a disadvantage. I think that's the reason that a lot of the companies they say, hey, come back to the office. Well, we can do the work remotely. And I'm like, but it's different version of you who shows remotely. And a different version of you who shows in person. And when you have that person, it's like being able to recuse that you're not able to read online because you're like frozen. Yeah, it's like you don't move. So I think that's the disadvantage with the online. And I'm like, you can work from home, but show up in the office and interact. And I think what happened is like, well, why they punish me? It was a lady talking to me that they were punishing her for the promotion. She's like, oh, they don't give me the promotion because I'm a female. And I'm like, no, let me tell you this one. And it's funny because the lady who got the promotion, also a lady, got the promotion, yeah? Mm-hmm. But it was I don't think that's the reason. I said, well, they want me to go back to the office. And I'm like, yeah, because they can interact with you. So, so it's like, if you want to play the corporate game, and you don't have to, but if you want to play the corporate game, now you want the corner office, corner office from home now, but if you want that corner office, all the advantage you are in a tremendous disadvantage if you're not interacting in person with someone in the office. Because a conversation in the break room with one of your bosses, when you guys walk into the same place for coffee and he asks you a question and he deemed that question be very intelligent response, that is something that they don't happen when you work from home. Mm-hmm. So I think first thing is like going back and start learning. And I don't know if it's gonna be or someone comes out with a program that teach how to read like cues from a Zoom meeting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I did a training with one of the senior students for Paul Ekman. Paul Ekman is the guy who does the micro expressions. And we worked through video, yeah. But it's like, it wasn't a video conference. It was people being recorded acting live. Okay. So I don't know if they create a video of talking to someone that is putting a persona, because it's like different layers. Now you need to like, remove that mask.
Especially on the context of the meeting, because someone could be, whether they're with their supervisor or a peer or a subordinate, they can have, there's 3 different identities right there that they're having to be the actor for.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, I don't know. I think it's great to be able to do some work remotely. Yeah, it can be done. But if you are the higher that you get in a corporation, and especially if you're a small company, I see the advantage of being locked out, everybody locked out in a room and like getting things done. Yeah. It's like, you don't have to wait for an email. You just walk from this table to that table and say, hey, can you help me with this? And it's like, no waiting for an email that's going to come the next week, the next day, to set up a meeting to the next week. And like, because I don't know, how do you fix that? Like when I did with this guy who wrote me the ransom letters, like they collage the promotions. Yes, I don't know, let's get together in the same room. And same thing that you did with that corporation. There was like, creating order changes because there was a lot of people in there.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like a pros and cons, double-edged sword with the remote thing. When the lockdown came about, we went fully remote, and our productivity actually increased and went up. But there definitely was, it's very taxing, because people from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, like people wouldn't even have a chance to use the restroom because it was so fast paced and just back-to-back meetings, Zoom all day, just people get very depleted, very, very tired. And to me, it seems like a sweet spot is the more of a hybrid approach, where you can be highly productive, do your work, but it takes a certain type of person that's very professional and has discipline, because there is this trend towards the quiet vacationing, I think it's called.
Oh yeah, as you saw, there's something new that's happening, the quiet vacationing, and I'm like, and I'm like, use your PTO.
I know, right? Yeah, it's interesting, but there is definitely something to be said about when people are together in a room and the energy transference between people that comes about, and the ability to innovate and collaborate, and through collaboration to innovate and problem solve is really magical. When everyone's in that same room, and it's just so quick.
Oh yeah. It's like the egregore that we talked earlier that comes to life.
Yeah. And everything's flowing, and that's something that I haven't found the ability to recreate that, even despite all the new tools that came about, like Miro and yet all the different tools and functions to try to emulate that. Still isn't the same.
I'm going to give you my perspective why.
I'm very interested.
I think the reason that things they create that synergy, it's another buzzword, like synergy.
Right.
Is that synergy of a corporation, of the on a basketball silo, and like I'm sound like I'm when I was working for McKinsey. But it's like I believe. So if you look, your body vibrates, yeah, and your heart vibrates, and the vibration in your heart that usually measures between 4 or 6 feet out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you are in a room, you are basically in this soup of people pointing in the same direction. So that synergy, once again, as like it was esoteric training, is all this, you multiply whatever. If you have 6 people in your team and they all work together for the same room, you multiply your capacity, energetic capacity to get something done times 6.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah.
That is challenging to do.
Yes.
Online.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. I completely understand what you're saying. And what's interesting too is even in the work today when I do a Qigong session on someone, I prefer in person, even though I could do the remote.
Yeah.
There's that aspect. I just, part of it was just in my own mind that, trusting, and it still blows my mind, the fact that, when I know why we can do it, but it's still interesting. Like, wow, that's just amazing. But there's just a different feeling when it's in person. I prefer it because it's just, exactly what you talked about. There's that soup in a sense. I just feel it more when it's in person than as opposed to, for me anyways, at my level of development.
Yeah. No, I think it's a different, it takes a different level of practitioner to be able to do distance sessions. I think also if anybody wants to do distance sessions, hopefully they perform at least 1,000 or like enough.
Yeah, in person.
Yeah,
100%.
To know the movement and things of that nature.
Yeah, 100%. I just had my furthest distance session with, twice now, but a couple of days ago, and the person's in Paris.
Oh, okay.
That's my furthest one yet, and it actually was the most powerful, as far as like the experience that the person had.
What do you think?
I think it's just further development and more trusting in myself too. That even though I've been doing that for a long time, there's always a bit of like, I don't know, a little trepidation. Like, is it going to work? I don't know. Maybe.
Do you think that you put more thought and intention because you thought it was farther?
Oh, with this one? You know what? I don't think so. I think it was just I was so comfortable, and today I'm just like, yeah, I can do it, and I'm just so comfortable with it. And to me, it's just the way I with the Zoom, my method is just kind of going in like as a portal and just going into the screen and into placing myself in the environment. And so it really doesn't matter where they're at. Yeah, and I'm just so used to that now. It just doesn't matter. But I kind of, even though, I definitely need to stay humble about it, but it's still kind of neat. It's like, oh, okay, cool, neat, to think about, I could be wherever. It doesn't really matter. There's no limitation.
I think that the humble piece is such a key because the moment that anybody takes any of this for granted, it's either it's gonna backfire you, or you're gonna become not effective.
Yeah, and
that's when a lot of holistic practitioner blames the patient. Was their fault, and I'm like, but you are like cocky, so that's your fault,
right? Agreed. Yeah, humility is key. And in the world of business too. That was another aspect of our brand values, is that being humble. We had aspects of like being bold, being confident, but yet we valued humility. It's that fine line, between confidence and arrogance. If you don't have that humility, then you can jump to that arrogant level, and then that's just disaster. in the world of business. And just like what they were talking about with practitioners, creates disasters.
Yeah, and it's such a, I think a lot of people read that wrong, that you see a lot of, like you put like Elon Musk, and most people say, oh, he's arrogant. And I think part of it, maybe, but also I believe that he is confident.
Yeah, he's very confident. And he is extremely intelligent, too. Like, he can't almost not help himself, like, at times, it seems like, to say certain things just because his mind is just so amazing.
But I got to work in a company once, and they hired me, and the issue was the previous owner, it was the dad, so the son got the company, and the dad was like super intelligent, like it was ahead of his time in business, and he will create opportunities out of the thin air. And his son thought that he inherited those qualities from his dad. And he did not.
Right. He wasn't humble enough to realize that.
Not just that, he thought that everybody, it was turning against. He's become paranoid, Oh, you guys don't like me, that's the reason, because it's like, and I'm like, no. You actually, they love your dad. You're a tyrant, and like, when you become a tyrant like that, it's like people will like not pull out with it. And then he burned like a 50-year-old company that was very successful just because the arrogance and pride, and that happens a lot.
Yeah, it does. And today, business environment where there is so much opportunity and choice for employees, they don't need to stick around and put up with.
No, it's like, well, we talk about like, what is the quiet vacation or the quiet, also the other one is quiet quitting.
Yes, both of those,
Yeah. I think, but so one of the things that I think companies are making a huge critical mistakes today is customer service. Because if you look the inflation, it's very interesting because they look and say, oh, it's only 2.3%. But if you break it back about 6 years and you look the whole thing, the whole inflation pattern, so in the last 6 years, it went up almost 21%.
Wait, what's that?
The inflation.
Oh, yes.
So
gotcha. Yes.
What happened is like,
right,
all of that went up, but salaries didn't went up.
Correct. Yeah. Right. Especially when you adjusted for inflation too.
Yeah. So all those things. And so I think tipping is out of control, first of all. But the other thing is what the companies, I think, in today's day, they are making a huge critical mistakes is the customer service. They're like, oh, whatever. Yeah, we got you money. Everything's done into a membership. Everything, I got you money.
Right.
But I think coming up, people is going to be very jealous in the way they spend their money. And a lot of these companies that are not paying attention to customer service, they're going to go under.
Yeah. In an area that I found through my experience is a serious lack of accountability. And that's all part of that customer experience of if something goes wrong, well, are you going to make it right for the customer? It's pretty simple. But a lot of people just don't want to be accountable. And it's astonishing. I don't get it. To me, it's, that's another part of our brand. We are accountable for our work, and things happen. We're all human. And as long as you can make it right, people are cool. They understand. Oh, okay, fine. And then the relationship gets even stronger. But for some strange reason out there, there's such a lack of accountability, and it's so detrimental to the brand experience, that customer service and the customer experience. And once your brand gets tarnished, it's the trust is lost, and it's so hard for a brand to build that back. Once it's lost, it's lost.
Yeah.
Hence, a lot of companies will be going out of business with a lack of attention paid towards customer service.
Yeah. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
In the next 18 months, it's going to be tremendous debacle of that.
Yes. And you see that it's interesting when companies run into some hard times, there's that reactionary mode where they can start to give less customer service because they're all reactive and getting out of sorts and unbalanced with the emotions and panicking and don't bother, and that customer service is lost, and they don't realize it's just a downward spiral they're creating, as opposed to taking a moment to pause and think about how to do better. Provide better customer service, even, right? Let's turn it around. How could we be even better? Yeah, it's interesting. It's very, very interesting times. And I agree that this next 18 months, 24 months, we're probably going to see a lot of older legacy brands going out of business.
Yeah. So, give me a few highlights from your book.
Okay. So chapter 1 is all about building a foundation. Yeah. And that's a principle that I learned from studying martial arts, is that you have to have that solid foundation in order to build on top of that and become better and more evolved. And just like if we look at the construction industry we were talking about, all these buildings, skyscrapers, or they have a foundation.
Put the nice cornerstones in which the edifice is going to be built around it.
Right. Key, right? So same thing, there needs to be in business, when you're developing your company, you need to establish that solid foundation. And then one of the aspects that I talk about in chapter 1 is the 5 elements of entrepreneurial success. And it's borrowed from Chinese 5-element theory. And I took that model, and then just based on my personal experience, I identified 5 elements of entrepreneurial success. You could just say 5 elements of success if you want to extrapolate it and apply it to any area in life. But again, my book's in the context of entrepreneurship, right? So the 5 elements that I have are passion. Yeah, it could start from anywhere, but I like to start it with passion because it's easier to talk through it this way. So passion, right, which leads to discipline, and then discipline leads to expertise. Expertise leads to confidence, and then confidence leads to faith. And, there's that generative cycle. But then if it starts to reverse, all those elements could diminish as well. And then, as you know, in 5-element theory, we have the interrelationships between each of the elements. So there's the aspects of the controlling, or where an element will influence that grandparent type relationship, where it can influence the potential of that element. And then there's, that more insulting relationship where it can detract from that element. So I talk about this model, and where it's really about developing each of the elements. You have the potential, developing the potential, and then filling that potential of those elements. Then once you have built those elements, how to maintain that balance. And life always throws us these curveballs and can knock us out of balance. So how quickly can we get back to balance and maintain it? And, from what I'm explaining is it's a model for success in developing in balance, keeping these elements in balance. And that's something that's been, a lot of people have been very receptive to so far.
Yeah, it's a great is like how quickly can you bounce back is something that also can be measured.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of business, if you can measure, you probably can improve it.
Right. What is measured can be improved. Yes. Yeah. Yes. 100%. And the work that we do too really comes into play with a Qigong practice or any other sort of practice that, someone gravitates towards. There's all kinds of things out there that, one can pursue, right? That can enable someone to get a hold of their mind, their mental and emotional state, to have the proper mindset to get back to balance and maintain that balance. It's a lot of these negative emotions that knock us off balance, and we get too caught up in a certain area, like say we lose faith. And earlier in our conversation, I gave that example of that faith element where I had that strong faith in myself and of a higher power, and got me through a lot of moments. But then there was that one special moment where there was that divine guidance that came into play. If I didn't have that faith element developed, it probably wouldn't have happened in my opinion. Yeah. So, it's, that's something that's really important. Another thing that I talk about is, we've talked about discipline and those 3 layers of discipline that I mentioned earlier, but also discipline technique. So one of the things that I learned in saying Chinese Kung Fu is we refer to it as discipline technique, where you take a specific technique and build it up to a high discipline level. And the way we would do that is through breaking materials, breaking cement, breaking red bricks. Those are the basic breaking I do. But the people back in New York, they could do all kinds of crazy breaking, like the nail bed and smashing stuff on the face, and all the the wild stuff. But discipline technique, taking a technique and evolving it to deliver the highest impact possible. So with that, applying that to the world of business, what are your core products or services that you can develop to its highest degree, to its highest level, where you can deliver the most value? And those should be your core product or service or service offerings. And that's what I did at my companies. We had, we kind of would mix it around from time to time, but we usually had 6 to 7 core services that we provided as part of our solution sets. Yeah, but the discipline technique, developing your superpower in a sense, I talk about that. That's an important aspect. Also, I talk about the need for self-care. I through my journey, I learned the hard way that I need to take care of myself. Otherwise, your health just goes down the tubes. And I ended up with a challenge with diabetes, and just feeling just really not healthy, just being unhealthy. And I had to recapture my health. And in order to do that, I had to be of service to self. So I have a saying in the book, be of service to self so you can be of service to others for a lifetime. Because what good is it if you're always giving and you end up burning yourself out and it's not sustainable? Then you're not around or have the ability or the energy to be able to continue to be of service to others. All right, so what good is that? So
and then you will not regret what you tried to build.
Right, you regret, you build resentment, all these things that can affect you emotionally, mentally, and then eventually physically, as we know, right? How things affect, the layers. So it's critical to take the time to prioritize your self-care, be a service to self, so that then for a lifetime, then you'll have the energy for a lifetime to be of service to others.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. It's a true pleasure to be here talking with you. So interesting, and I enjoy it very much.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.